Hey, do you want to do one of those cringy intros, or do you just want to get into the video?
Nah, let's just get into the video.
Yeah. Rolling, I can never get enough. I've been up too long and I way too drunk, but we straight up in it and we feeling.
Pokemon is a game that is constantly changing and adding new features. Evolution is a key feature in Pokemon games as it enables you to power up your team and just complete the Pokedex. It's been around since the very beginning and it can happen in many different ways. Over the years, Pokemon has introduced many new evolutions as well as evolution methods. So we decided to come up with 10 new ways Pokemon could evolve in Sun and Moon.
Keep in mind, these are just ideas we came up with, some of which are for a specific species of Pokemon, such as NK's method of evolving. You need to turn your 3DS upside down to evolve it into Malamar. There's no other Pokemon that evolves that way, and I doubt there ever will be.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I think we got everything. Let's get right into the video. So for the first new method on this list, we have something that's a little darker than you're probably used to in a Pokemon game. Currently, there is an existing evolution method for evolving by happiness, but what about a Pokemon that evolves based on how angry it is?
We doubt Pokemon would implement something like this because PETA would be all over their ass. But if they were, they would need to add more ways to lower a Pokemon's happiness. Currently, the only reliable way to lower happiness is by using herbs on your Pokemon or just letting them faint. And the only benefit to this is having a stronger frustration, which is pointless when Return does the exact same thing, but better.
Once this Pokemon evolves, its happiness would be set at 0, and no matter how hard you try, you would never be able to raise it. This would make frustration more viable and actually give the move Return a decent counterpart. They could even take it one step further and make frustration somewhat like Fury Cutter. So if you use it multiple times in a row, it'll get stronger and stronger. This also gives people a reason to use frustration over Return, since Return doesn't have a secondary effect.
Fat.
Is that all?
No, why the fuck did you interrupt me? Anyways, we quite enjoy the evolution method that was given to Eevee to evolve it into Sylveon in Generation 6. For those that don't know, to obtain Sylveon, you need to raise Eevee's affection to a certain level in Pokemon Me, have it know some form of fairy type move, most likely Baby Doll Eyes, and then level it up once.
So what we kind of had in mind for this evolution method was a sort of calorie counter. So when it reached a certain amount of calories and the right level, the Pokemon would start to evolve. As for how this Pokemon actually gets these calories, it would be through feeding it. In Pokemon Me, there is an option to feed your Pokemon Pokepuffs while you are playing with them, and feeding them a certain number of Pokepuffs would raise its calories and fatten it up, obviously.
Who knows, they may include more food options in Pokemon Sun and Moon's version of Pokemon Me. We don't think they would give many Pokemon this method of evolving. I could see it be an alternative way to evolve Munchlax, and maybe 1 or 2 new Pokemon in Generation 7, but besides that I don't think it would be used very often.
Oh wow, why do I have to start off all the depressing ones? This next one involves, well, a Pokemon evolving by dying.
Pokemon don't die, you fucking idiot. They faint.
Do not sass Woopsire.
Anyways, like most of the entries on this list, the evolution method is directed towards one type of Pokemon we have in mind. This Pokemon would be a normal type, and it would evolve by using Destiny Bond and getting a kill. This of course would mean the Pokemon would have to faint, but that's sort of the whole point.
The Pokemon we had in mind would be a normal ghost type Pokemon, and the concept of this would just be really cool, since we've never had an evolution based on a Pokemon literally dying in battle.
It's fainting, not dying.
Okay.
This is my personal favorite from the entire list. The evolution method would use the battery of your 3DS, and once again, it's more for one specific type of Pokemon.
This evolution would be for a battery Pokemon, and depending on the percent of the battery you have left on your 3DS would depend on which form it evolved into. These would be simple form changes like the different Gorgeist sizes, something like that.
If you evolve on low battery, it would have a red glow around it, full battery would have a green glow around it, and half battery would have an orange glow around it. They could also have different stats. The full battery form could have more HP and more defense, while the low battery form would be faster and more offensive. And of course that would mean the 50% form would just be in between.
So with the rising popularity of the Pokemon VGC playstyle, I think a Pokemon based on EVs would be a great addition to the games. For those who don't know, EV stands for effort values, which provide improvements to a certain stat. Effort values work like this. Each Pokemon has a value assigned to it, and when your Pokemon defeats that Pokemon in battle, it is worth 1 effort value and is then applied to the overall count for up to 510 effort values. EVs are very complicated and run pretty deep, but I think I covered the basics, and I'm sure people will add to it in the comments. Please don't yell at me.
A method like this would help add more importance to the super training feature added in Generation 6. I know we already have Tyrogue, but his evolution isn't based solely on EVs, it's more just his stats overall, which can be quite tricky to work around. They could add an easier way to see how many EVs your Pokemon has, so what it evolves into is much easier for you to choose.
This Pokemon wouldn't evolve till the EVs in that certain stat hit around 200. After the stat hits 200, the game will dictate what form you'd get.
I like to call this one the EV of status conditions. This method of evolving is for another specific kind of Pokemon. What Whoop and I had in mind for this one is sort of how Burmy evolves. Depending on which location you last used Burmy, he'll change form. That's the case for the Pokemon we have in mind, except it changes form based on which status condition it has.
So let's say he gets paralyzed. He's still the same Pokemon, he just looks different, and if you level it up at, say, level 20, it'll evolve and turn into the electric type variant of his evolution. The various status conditions would change the type it evolves into, so for example, paralysis would turn it into an electric type, poison, a poison type, freeze into an ice type, sleep into a psychic type, and burn into a fire type.
I can see this being triggered in a lot of different ways, such as using different types of orbs to self-inflict the conditions, or having to use moves like rest, or doing some cool double battle techniques to get your desired form. I take back what I said about the last entry. I think this is my favorite method of evolving.
This is one of my personal favorites on this list. Ever since Chatter's release in Generation 4, I've just loved the idea of using the microphone in the games. It's something that hasn't really been capitalized on, which kind of makes me sad.
Having a Pokemon evolve by shouting at it through the microphone would remind people that the microphone exists and means it isn't a complete waste of space being there.
This could possibly be used with some Pokemon that's always sleeping and you have to yell at it loud enough to wake it up and cause it to evolve.
This entry was a bit harder to come up with, but we think Game Freak could find some awesome way to pull it off, so we'll describe it the best we can.
Originally, the idea we had in mind was, what if we took the shelter off of Slowbro's tail and it went back into a Slowpoke, and then we would call it reverse evolution, but then again, that isn't evolving, it's more devolving, but...
So we built off the whole removing, for lack of a better word, hindrances from Pokemon, and we thought of Type Null. His mask is stopping him from being at his full potential. So we thought it'd be cool if you could somehow remove said hindrance from whatever Pokemon it is, and once that happens it can finally evolve. A bit of a weirder one, but done right, I think it could be really cool. And I'm not saying Type Null should evolve at all, it's just an example for what a hindrance on a Pokemon is, and how removing it could release its full potential, making it evolve.
Alright, so this list was made before the Korokora leaks, which if you don't know, just revealed that Type Null evolves, and when it evolves, its helmet breaks off and it basically just becomes powerful. So we predicted this right. Game Freak stole our idea. We actually shared our document with them and they stole from us, which is completely cool because, you know, we helped Game Freak out. Obviously all that was a joke. I feel like I need to clarify the editing, so this will be an edit over an edit. But back to the edit. So yeah, we had this idea originally, Game Freak implemented it, but we're just gonna keep it because like we thought of it. In Generation 6, Pokemon introduced this little guy. His evolution line is a bit different as Sliggoo evolves by being leveled up in the rain. This was the inspiration for this next method.
This isn't completely original, it's essentially the same way of evolving Goodra, just with different conditions. Sandstorm, hail, drought, and any they may introduce in Generation 7.
This could be like a Burmy type situation where depending on where it last battled, depends on the form it evolves into. Or it could just be a Pokemon that will only evolve if you level it up during a sandstorm, like Goodra. This evolution method isn't for a specific kind of Pokemon and could generally just go for anything.
Hoenn introduced this neat little feature that wasn't really used in any other Pokemon games, and Woop and I think it has the potential to do more than what it was used for.
As Callum mentioned in the Hoenn region, there is this one often overlooked feature that we would like to see make its way back in and possibly add a new evolution method to go with it. This would be the use of the tides. In the Shoal Cave in the Hoenn region, this was one of the rare places where tides made an appearance in the games.
Since the new Pokemon games are Sun and Moon, we thought a tide-based evolution would be pretty cool. Since a moon controls the tide, and one of the games is Moon, and yeah.
That's gonna wrap up this video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to hit that like button, maybe subscribe for some more Pokemon content, and share this video with a friend. To see more, click on that iCard in the top right and check out some of my other playlists.
Woop, don't forget about the video we did on my channel.
Okay.
Do you wanna say it, or should I? Okay. Head on over to my channel to check out the video Woop and I made about alternative methods of evolution that they could possibly add in Sun and Moon. Do it.
Yeah, do it.